The conference room of the Galactic Council fell silent as junior researcher Miv Trask from the Vacthrine Xenolinguistics team displayed her findings on the massive holographic screen. Her three eyes blinked nervously as she presented what should have been a routine cultural integration report for the newest member species. Humans had been part of the Council for only 2 standard years, and this was simply the final assessment before granting them full voting rights. The linguistic analysis is complete, Miv Trask announced, her translator device converting her clicking speech into standard Galactic. We have traced the etymology of the human homeworld designation through all major language families. What they call Earth in their common tongue is derived from older roots. Ambassador Chen Wei sat in the human delegation section, reviewing trade agreements on his datapad. He barely looked up. This was supposed to be a formality. The humans had passed every other requirement for full membership. They had shared their technology. They had opened their borders. They had proven themselves peaceful and cooperative. Miv Trask continued, pulling up ancient human texts from dozens of languages. The Germanic root eartho means ground or soil. The Latin terra means land. But when we analyze the contextual usage patterns and trace them to their oldest forms, we find a consistent translation across all human language families. She pressed a button, and the translation appeared in massive letters above the assembly. The true name of the human homeworld translates most accurately as the death world or the proving ground. The silence stretched for exactly 3 seconds. Then the chamber erupted into chaos. High Arbiter Zeltoth, the Vacthrine leader who had presided over council meetings for 40 years, stood so quickly that his chair toppled backward. His calm demeanor shattered completely. "Verify that translation immediately," he shouted, his voice booming without need for amplification. Ambassador Chen looked up, confused. Around him, delegates from 36 species were standing, talking, shouting. The gentle Thyrene representatives huddled together, their crystalline bodies chiming with distress. The Phyrexian ambassador was already on her communicator, presumably calling her homeworld. I don't understand," Chen said to the nearest delegate, a Vorish trader named Kel. "What's wrong?" Kel's fur had flattened against his body, a sign of extreme anxiety. "You don't know? You truly don't know what this means?" "It's just a name," Chen protested. "Dirt, ground, earth. We named it after the soil." "No," Kel whispered, backing away slowly. "No species names their world after survival concepts unless—" He didn't finish. He just kept backing away. Commander Grask of the Krillian military contingent stood at his station, his scaled hands flying over his control panel. Chen watched as the commander pulled up file after file, his yellow eyes widening with each new screen. The Krillians were known as the toughest warriors in the galaxy. Chen had never seen one look afraid before. High Arbiter Zeltoth called for order, but his voice shook. "Emergency session. Clear the gallery. Someone get me historical analysis immediately. I want every record we have of species that used survival-based nomenclature for their homeworlds." "Already done, High Arbiter," came a voice from the analysis section. A screen flickered to life, showing a list of 8 species names. Chen recognized only one, the Drethkar, a species quarantined on their homeworld after they had attempted to conquer half the galaxy 3,000 years ago. Their world was marked in red on all star charts. No ship went there. No one spoke of them except in warnings. All 8 species on this list, the analyst reported, his voice hollow, named their homeworlds after concepts of death, battle, struggle, or survival. 7 of them became galactic-level extinction threats. The 8th was the Vorchain, who destroyed themselves in a planetary civil war that turned their world into ash. The chamber fell silent again. Zeltoth turned slowly to face the human delegation. Chen stood up, his hands raised in a peaceful gesture. "High Arbiter, I can assure you, humans are not— Are you an apex predator species?" Zeltoth interrupted. Chen blinked. "Well, yes, technically, but did your species evolve alongside megafauna predators?" "Yes, but we mostly avoided—" "Does your planet have what you consider normal weather patterns?" Chen paused. "Of course. Standard seasonal variations, some storms." A Thyrene delegate made a sound like shattering glass. "Their hurricane winds reach 300 kilometers per hour. They call that normal weather. We evacuate entire planets when winds reach 50. Zeltoth pulled up Earth's file. His hands trembled as he scrolled through the data. Your gravity is 1.3 times galactic standard. Your atmospheric oxygen content is considered toxic to most species. Your temperature variations would cause equipment failure in our ships, yet you call it comfortable. You have documented evidence of over 2,000 natural disasters per standard year, and you have the audacity to call your planet stable. Chen felt the need to defend his homeworld. Earth is beautiful. Yes, it can be dangerous, but you domesticated wolves, Commander Grask said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. Apex predators, pack hunters. You brought them into your homes. You bred them into thousands of variations. You call them companions. Dogs are friendly, Chen protested. They descended from creatures that hunted in coordinated packs and could take down prey twice their size, Grask countered, and you made them into pets. For children. Miv Trask pulled up more data, her voice shaking. I've been reviewing human cultural files. Their entertainment includes a genre called horror, where they simulate being hunted by predators or supernatural threats. Their sports include activities where they deliberately injure each other according to agreed rules. Their concept of vacation includes going to locations with hostile environmental conditions. That's just adventure tourism, Chen said weakly. You climb mountains where the air is too thin to breathe properly, a Zephyri representative shrieked. For fun. Zeltoth sat down slowly, his eyes never leaving Chen. Ambassador Chen, I need you to answer this question with complete honesty. Has your species been suppressing its natural behavior patterns during first contact? Chen opened his mouth, closed it, thought carefully about his answer. He remembered the briefings before humanity had revealed itself to the galaxy. The careful instructions on how to appear friendly, non-threatening, civilized. We were trying to make a good first impression, he finally admitted. The chamber erupted into panic again. High Arbiter, Zeltoth raised his hand for silence. When he spoke, his voice was grave. This session is adjourned. We will reconvene in 3 standard days for a full threat assessment. Ambassador Chen, you and your delegation are confined to your quarters. This is not an arrest, he added quickly, seeing Chen's expression. This is protective custody. For everyone's safety. As security escorted the confused human delegation out of the chamber, Chen heard Zeltoth's final words to his advisors. Find out everything we can about Earth, and pray to whatever gods will listen that the humans continue choosing to be peaceful. Because if they decide otherwise, we may have just welcomed a nightmare into the galaxy. Chen wanted to protest, wanted to explain that humans were peaceful, that Earth was just home. But as he left the chamber, he couldn't help but remember a phrase from his childhood. Something his grandmother had told him about their world. Earth doesn't care if you survive. It just gives you the chance to try. Maybe, Chen thought, the galaxy had a point. The Council archives stretched beneath the surface of Nexus Station like a vast digital brain. Zixthar, the head archivist, had worked in these chambers for 70 years. He had never seen this level of emergency access granted before. Every terminal blazed with activity as researchers pulled files from across galactic history. I need everything on planetary naming conventions, Commander Grask barked at a junior researcher. Cross-reference with threat assessments and military capacity. The young Phyrexian nearly dropped her datapad. Commander, that's over 40,000 species across 8,000 years of Council records. Then start with the extinct ones, Grask said grimly. Across the archive, teams worked frantically. High Arbiter Zeltoth had given them 2 days to prepare a comprehensive report. Every species that had ever named their homeworld after survival concepts needed to be analyzed. Every pattern needed to be found. Dr. Venskal, a Zephyri xenopsychologist, pulled up the Vorchain records. His feathers ruffled with discomfort as he read. The Vorchain had called their world Endless War. They had evolved on a planet where 3 intelligent species competed for dominance. By the time they reached space, conflict was so ingrained in their nature that they brought their wars with them. They had destroyed 17 colonies before turning their weapons on each other. The Drethkar file, Zixthar announced, projecting it for everyone to see. They called their homeworld Blood Soil. They conquered 47 systems before the Council managed to contain them. It took a combined fleet of 800 ships and cost 6 million lives. They're still quarantined today, 4,000 years later. The researchers fell silent, staring at the images of the Drethkar homeworld, now surrounded by automated defense satellites that fired on anything trying to leave. What made them so dangerous? Someone asked. They evolved as pack hunters on a world with higher gravity than standard. Zixthar read from the file. They developed endurance hunting techniques. Their prey couldn't outlast them. They literally chased animals until the creatures collapsed from exhaustion. A Thyrene researcher made a sound of distress. Pull up the human file. Physical specifications section. They all saw it at the same time. Human gravity. 1.3 times standard. Human hunting method. Persistence hunting. No. Someone whispered. That's not possible. That's the same. There's more. Another researcher interrupted, her voice shaking. She projected human evolutionary history onto the main screen. Humans evolved alongside saber-toothed cats, cave bears, giant short-faced bears, creatures that could kill an adult human with a single strike. And humans survived, not by being stronger, not by being faster, by being smarter and by never giving up. Commander Grask studied a human anatomical chart. Look at their muscle composition. Type I fibers make up 40% of their muscle mass. Those are slow-twitch endurance fibers. They're built for sustained activity over hours or days, not quick sprints. That's a pursuit predator design, Dr. Venskal said quietly. They're designed to follow prey until it collapses. Zixthar pulled up more files. The Krathnaks called their world the Crucible. They became the most successful mercenary species in the galaxy. Every major power employs them because they simply do not surrender. The Vexthor named their world Storm's Heart. They control the entire Vex sector through sheer determination. All species that named their worlds after survival concepts showed similar patterns. Dr. Venskal summarized, his feathers completely flattened now. Enhanced aggression, extreme determination, unwillingness to accept defeat, and most critically, the ability to thrive in conditions that would kill most other species. A junior researcher raised his hand timidly. I've been reviewing human cultural files. May I share something? Grask nodded. The researcher projected a list onto the main screen. These are substances humans regularly consume. Caffeine, a stimulant drug that increases alertness and heart rate. They drink it every morning. Ethanol, a poison that damages cellular function. They drink it for recreation. Capsaicin, a chemical weapon that causes pain receptors to fire. They add it to their food because they enjoy the sensation. The archive fell silent. They poison themselves voluntarily, someone said in disbelief. For pleasure, the researcher confirmed. And their immune systems are, I don't even know how to classify this. They can survive infections that would kill any of us. Their bodies maintain hostile bacterial colonies in their digestive systems that they claim are beneficial. They call it gut flora. Dr. Venskal pulled up more data. Their planet tried to kill them in every way possible. Predators, disease, weather, toxic plants. And they didn't just survive. They thrived. They spread across every environment on their world. Deserts where the temperature could boil water. Arctic regions where exposed skin freezes in minutes. Jungles full of venomous creatures. They went everywhere. How did they do it? Someone asked. They made alliances, Zixthar said, reading from another file. With wolves. With plants. With each other. When Earth tried to kill them with cold, they didn't evolve thicker fur. They killed animals and wore their skins. When they couldn't digest certain plants, they didn't evolve new stomachs. They discovered fire and cooked the plants instead. They didn't adapt to Earth, they made Earth adapt to them. Commander Grask stood up, his expression troubled. I need to see their military files. All of them. An hour later, he looked like he might be sick. They have something called the Geneva Conventions. It's a set of rules they created to limit how destructive their wars could be. Rules for war. They needed rules to stop themselves from being too effective at killing each other. What kind of rules? Zeltoth asked. He had joined them in the archives, unable to wait for the final report. They prohibit certain weapons. Grask said slowly. Not because the weapons don't work. Because they work too well. Chemical weapons. Biological weapons. They invented these things, realized how effective they were, and collectively agreed never to use them again. That shows restraint, someone said hopefully. That shows capability, Grask corrected. They have the weapons. They simply choose not to use them. And according to these files, they have enough nuclear weapons to render their entire planet uninhabitable. They've had them for over 200 years. They could have destroyed themselves at any time. But they didn't. Dr. Venskal made a sound of realization. That's why they were so careful during first contact. They weren't hiding their nature out of deception. They were worried about scaring us. Zixthar pulled up the first contact records. The human delegation had been almost comically cautious. They had waited for the council to approach them, rather than announcing themselves. They had shared technology slowly. They had accepted every restriction and rule without protest. They were being polite, Zeltoth said in wonder. This entire time they were deliberately making themselves appear less threatening. We need to see what they're like when they're not being polite, Grask said. He pulled up human entertainment files. Within minutes he wished he hadn't. This is their children's entertainment, he said, his voice hollow. Stories where young humans face down monsters, defeat evil, overcome impossible odds. They tell these stories to children to prepare them for life. What kind of life requires that preparation? Someone asked. One where the planet actively tries to kill you, Dr. Venskull answered. Look at their fairy tales. Hansel and Gretel, two children abandoned in a forest, outwit a monster trying to eat them. Little Red Riding Hood, a child encountering a predator, survives through cleverness. Jack and the Beanstalk, a boy steals from a giant and escapes. These aren't stories about safety. These are survival manuals disguised as entertainment. The researchers looked at each other in growing horror. Their planet made them this way, Zixthar said quietly. Earth shaped them into survivors. And now they're here in the galaxy, still following the rules that helped them survive. What rules? Zeltoth asked. Cooperate when possible. Fight when necessary. Never give up. And most importantly, Zixthar pulled up a quote from human literature. Adapt or die. Commander Grask closed his files. Hi, Arbiter, I have my assessment ready. Tell me. Humans are the single most dangerous species ever to join the Galactic Council, Grask said flatly. Not because they're aggressive, not because they're violent, but because their planet spent millions of years training them to overcome any obstacle. Through sheer determination and creative problem-solving, they're pursuit predators who learned cooperation. They're survivors who choose diplomacy. They're capable of extreme violence but prefer peace. And if they stop choosing peace? Zeltoth asked quietly. Grask looked at the files spread across his terminal, files showing human endurance, human creativity, human determination. Then every other species in the galaxy should pray they're on the human side. Because the humans won't stop. They never stop. Earth trained them too well for that. In the silence that followed, everyone in the archive understood the same terrible truth. The galaxy hadn't welcomed a peaceful species into the council. They had welcomed a sleeping predator who had chosen to be gentle, and they had just figured out how dangerous it could be if it woke up. The news leaked within hours. In an organization of 43 member species spread across thousands of systems, secrets never lasted long. A Phyrexian journalist received an anonymous tip. A Thyrene trader overheard a conversation. A Vorish merchant saw the security lockdown around the human quarters and asked questions. By the next morning, every news network in council space was running the same story. Earth revealed as Death World. Council conducts emergency assessment. On the Thyrene homeworld of Crystal Falls, the Planetary Council called an emergency session. The Thyrene had built their civilization on trade and peaceful exchange. They had no military to speak of. Their entire defense strategy relied on council protection and the goodwill of their trading partners. Merchant Prince Learthax stood before the assembly, his crystalline body chiming with urgency. We must secure human goodwill immediately. If the assessment goes badly, we need to ensure humans view us as allies. How do we do that? Someone asked. We give them everything they want, Learthax replied. Better trade terms, technology sharing, cultural exchanges. We make ourselves so valuable to them that they have no reason to see us as enemies. Within the hour, Thyrene ships were departing for human space carrying gifts and trade proposals. Other peaceful species quickly followed. The Zephyri sent diplomatic delegations. The Vorish offered exclusive mining rights. The Cathari, who had barely acknowledged humanity before, suddenly expressed interest in a cultural alliance, but not everyone reacted with diplomacy. In the war rooms of the Krillian Empire, Commander Grask stood before the Supreme War Council. Holographic displays showed simulation after simulation. Each one ended the same way: human victory. This cannot be accurate, Supreme Commander Vorthak growled. We are the finest military force in the galaxy. We have conquered 17 systems. Our warriors train from birth. Grask gestured to the displays. I've run 300 combat simulations using every tactic in our database. Standard engagement 78% human victory. Prolonged conflict 92% human victory. Total war scenario 99% human victory. The only simulations we win are ones where we strike first with overwhelming force before they can mobilize. Then that's what we do, Vorthak said. Strike first. That would be genocide, Grask said quietly. And it would fail. Humans have colonies on 47 worlds now. We cannot strike them all simultaneously, and if we fail to eliminate them completely... He pulled up historical files on human warfare. Humans do not forgive attacks on their civilians. Their entire military doctrine is based on retaliation and escalation. If we attack them, we don't start a war. We start an extinction event, ours. The War Council fell silent, watching simulations of human military tactics. The humans fought like Earth had taught them. They adapted. They endured. They never stopped. What do you recommend? Vorthak asked finally. We make peace, Grask said. We ensure they never have a reason to see us as enemies. And we pray they continue choosing restraint. While the Krillians debated strategy, the news reached independent colonies and frontier stations. The reactions varied wildly. On Station Gamma 7, a mining outpost, human goods suddenly tripled in price. The station administrator, a shrewd Phyrexian named Kellex, saw opportunity. Humans know how to survive harsh environments, he told his suppliers. Their equipment is designed for death world conditions. That means it's overbuilt, stronger, more reliable. Start advertising everything human-made as premium survival gear. Within days, human camping equipment was being marketed as military-grade survival systems. Human vehicles were extreme environment transport. Even human food became valuable, advertised as sustenance designed for death world metabolism. The humans, watching all this unfold from their quarters in Nexus Station, were baffled. Ambassador Chen Wei sat with his delegation, reviewing news feeds from across the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Kim, the human xenobiologist, laughed until she cried. They're calling our hiking boots tactical assault footwear, she gasped. They think our water bottles are military canteens. Someone just paid 3,000 credits for a human-made tent that cost 20 credits on Earth. This isn't funny, Chen said, but he was smiling despite himself. The galaxy thinks we're monsters. Lieutenant Marcus Torres, their military advisor, was reading through the Krillian military assessments that had been leaked to the press. Actually, sir, they think we're extremely dangerous monsters who choose to be nice. There's a difference. How is that better? It means they respect us, Torres said. Fear we could do without. But respect? That's valuable. Dr. Kim pulled up more news feeds. Oh, this is beautiful. There's an entire market emerging for human cultural experiences. Someone on Vorish Prime is charging admission for people to eat human food. Spicy human food. They're treating capsaicin like an extreme sport. That's ridiculous, Chen said, is it? Torres asked. Think about it from their perspective, sir. We eat plants that evolved chemical weapons to avoid being eaten. We drink poison for fun. We climb mountains that could kill us. From their viewpoint, everything about us is extreme. Chen's communicator chimed. It was a message from the Zephyri ambassador requesting an urgent meeting. Then another from the Thyrene Trade Consortium. Then 6 more from various delegations. They all want to talk, Chen said in surprise. They want to make sure we like them, Dr. Kim corrected. The peaceful species are trying to become our friends. The aggressive ones are trying to make sure we don't become their enemies. And the merchants are trying to profit from our reputation. On the other side of Nexus Station, High Arbiter Xeltoth watched the same news feeds with growing concern. The panic was spreading faster than he could contain it. Species were choosing sides, making alliances, preparing for scenarios that might never happen. Dr. Venskal entered his office without knocking. We have a problem. Another one? Xeltoth asked wearily. The humans are reading our news coverage, Venskal said. They're seeing how we view them. And some of their civilians are leaning into it. He pulled up a human social media network. Xeltoth stared at the posts in disbelief. Earth, where evolution plays on hard mode. My planet has weather that could kill you. Your argument is invalid. Remember, humans are Space Orcs. Act accordingly. Thousands of humans were posting images of themselves doing normal Earth activities with captions explaining how dangerous they were. A child at a beach, a family camping, someone drinking coffee, each one tagged with explanations that made them sound like survival training exercises. "They're making jokes about it," Zeltoth said in disbelief. "That's what worries me," Venskal replied. "They're not afraid of their reputation. They're embracing it. Some of them think it's funny. Others are using it strategically. There's an entire discussion thread about how being seen as dangerous might actually help with diplomatic negotiations." Zeltoth sat down heavily. "We've created a situation where humans are now aware of how terrifying they appear to us. And instead of trying to seem less threatening, they're weaponizing it," Venskal finished. "Not in a military sense, but diplomatically, socially. They're learning to use our fear as a tool without actually doing anything aggressive." A new message appeared on Zeltoth's screen. It was from Ambassador Chen, requesting permission to address the council about the spreading panic. "Let him speak," Zeltoth decided. "Perhaps it's time we heard the human perspective on all of this." Meanwhile, in a secure conference room, a group of human military officers were having their own discussion. Colonel James Wright, head of Human Security Forces, addressed his staff. "The galaxy is afraid of us," he said bluntly. "Opinions?" "We could use this," Captain Elena Vasquez suggested. "A reputation for being dangerous might prevent conflicts before they start. Or it might provoke preemptive strikes from species that decide we're too dangerous to let live," another officer countered. Torres, attending via video link, spoke up. "I've been reviewing galactic history. Every species with a survival-based homeworld name either became a conqueror or was destroyed. We need to show the galaxy there's a third option." "Which is?" Wright asked. "We become the protectors," Torres said. "We're dangerous, yes, but we use that capacity to protect those who can't protect themselves. We become the species that frightens the bullies but befriends the weak. Earth made us survivors. We show them that survivors know the value of cooperation." Wright considered this. "That's a long-term strategy. In the short term, we have 43 species panicking about whether we're going to eat them." 42 species, Vasquez corrected. "The Drethkar sent us a message. From their quarantine zone. They want to talk." Everyone froze. "What did they say?" Wright asked carefully. "Welcome to the neighborhood, cousin species. Earth recognizes Earth, apparently. They want to establish communication." Wright closed his eyes. "That's the last thing we need. The galaxy already thinks we're like the Drethkar. If we start talking to the most dangerous species in galactic history, we tell them no," Torres interrupted. "Publicly, we reject any association with conquest species. We make it clear that just because we come from similar origins doesn't mean we share similar goals." "Will that work?" someone asked. "It's better than silence," Torres replied. "Silence lets the galaxy's imagination fill in the gaps. And right now their imagination is working overtime." Back in his quarters, the emergency council session was scheduled for 3 days after the initial discovery. Ambassador Chen had those 3 days to prepare humanity's response. What he didn't expect was how quickly Earth itself would react to the news. Dr. Sarah Kim burst into his quarters at midnight station time. "You need to see this. Right now." Chen, still half asleep, followed her to the communications center. Every screen showed different news feeds from Earth. Social media was exploding. News networks were running constant coverage. And the tone was completely unexpected. Humanity was laughing. "Deathworlders unite," read one trending hashtag. Millions of humans were posting pictures of themselves doing mundane activities with mock-serious captions. A woman walking her golden retriever. "Taking my domesticated apex predator for daily patrol of territory." A man drinking his morning coffee. Consuming addictive stimulant drug to prepare for daily survival protocols. A family at a beach. Exposing offspring to caustic salt water and dangerous UV radiation for recreation. "They think it's hilarious," Kim said, scrolling through posts. "The entire planet is making jokes about being scary space orcs." Chen rubbed his eyes. "This is a serious diplomatic crisis." "Is it, though?" Lieutenant Torres appeared in the doorway. "Sir, look at the response from other species. The Therine think our humor about the situation is charming. The Zephyri are fascinated by our ability to laugh at ourselves. Even some of the nervous species are relaxing, because we're clearly not taking this as an opportunity to threaten anyone." Chen watched more feeds. A group of university students had created a video explaining normal human activities from an alien perspective. Cooking with fire became routine use of combustion for food. Preparation. Swimming became voluntary. Submersion in liquid that can cause drowning. Roller coasters became recreational exposure to potentially lethal G-forces. They're doing our job for us, Chen realized. They're diffusing the panic by showing how absurd the fear is. Not entirely, Torres cautioned. There's another movement forming, a more serious one. He pulled up a different feed. Scientists, doctors, historians, and military analysts were giving interviews explaining Earth's actual conditions and humanity's actual capabilities. The tone was informative rather than joking. But the message was clear. Yes, humans are capable, but capability doesn't equal hostility. Dr. Jennifer Martinez, a xenobiologist from the University of São Paulo, was being interviewed. Earth is rated Class 7 on the habitability scale. That's not a death world classification to us because we evolved there. It's home. But to species from Class 3 or 4 worlds, our normal conditions are genuinely dangerous. They're not wrong to be cautious. We just need to show them that we're cautious too. Earth taught us to respect danger, not embrace it recklessly. Chen felt something shift in his understanding. We're having two conversations at once. One showing we're not monsters. The other acknowledging why the fear exists. It's actually brilliant, Kim said. The humor makes us approachable. The serious analysis makes us credible. Together they paint a picture of a species that's self-aware, capable, and choosing peace. Over the next 2 days, Earth coordinated its response. The UN Secretary-General gave a formal statement. Military leaders held press conferences. Scientists published papers. Cultural ambassadors organized virtual tours showing Earth life to curious aliens. But the most impactful moment came from an unexpected source. A kindergarten teacher from Tokyo named Yuki Tanaka posted a video of her class discussing the news. 5-year-old children, trying to understand why aliens were scared of humans. Sensei, are we really dangerous? A little boy asked. Yuki thought carefully before answering. We can be strong when we need to be. Earth taught humans to be tough, but being tough and being mean are different things. We're strong so we can protect people, not hurt them. Like superheroes? A girl asked. Exactly like superheroes, Yuki agreed. We have power, but we use it to help. The video went viral across multiple species networks. Dr. Venskal, the Zafiri psychologist, watched it 17 times. He sent it to every member of the council with a note. This is what we're actually afraid of. Not their strength, but that they might forget this lesson their children still understand. Meanwhile, humanity's scientific community was having its own reckoning. Dr. Rachel Foster, an evolutionary biologist, published a paper that shocked even other humans. We never realized how extreme our evolution was because we had no comparison point, she wrote. Every species we knew evolved on Earth, so it all seemed normal. Now we have 42 other species to compare ourselves against, and the data is startling. Her paper detailed the differences. Human bone density was 30% higher than the galactic average. Human healing rates were twice as fast. Human pain tolerance was off the charts. Even human emotional resilience, the ability to endure stress and trauma without breaking, was exceptional. We're not better, Foster concluded. We're just shaped by a planet that demanded more. And now we need to decide what to do with these traits. We can be what the galaxy fears, or we can be what it needs. Earth made us strong. The galaxy is giving us a chance to choose what that strength means. The military establishment had its own discussions. General Patricia Okonkwo, head of UN Space Command, addressed her officers via secure channel. I want everyone to understand the situation clearly, she said. We are not going to use this fear as a weapon. We are not going to threaten. We are not going to posture. Yes, our capabilities exceed many species. That means we have a responsibility to be careful. Earth taught us to survive. The galaxy is teaching us to be civilized. We will be both, but not everyone agreed. A fringe group calling themselves Terran Superiority began posting manifestos about human dominance. They were small, maybe a few thousand people out of billions, but their message was concerning. We should rule the galaxy, one post read. We're obviously the apex species. Why should we play nice with species that can't even survive on their own planets? The response from the rest of humanity was swift and brutal. Social media turned on them. Scientists debunked their claims. Military leaders denounced them. Within 24 hours, they were so thoroughly rejected by their own species that they deleted their accounts and disappeared. Ambassador Chen watched this with relief. We're policing ourselves. Of course we are, Kim replied. Earth taught us cooperation too. Humans survived by working together. The idiots who forget that don't last long. As the day of the council session approached, Chen finalized his speech. He showed it to his delegation. "I'm going to tell them the truth," he said. "All of it. The good and the bad. No hiding, no pretending. Just honesty." Torres nodded approval. "That's the right call. They've seen our capabilities. Now they need to understand our intentions." The night before the session, Chen received an unexpected message. It was from his grandmother in Beijing, 93 years old and as sharp as ever. "I heard you're giving a big speech," she wrote. "Remember what I told you about Earth. It doesn't care if you survive. It just gives you the chance to try. The galaxy is the same now. They're giving us a chance. Don't waste it by being too proud or too afraid. Just be honest. That's all anyone can ask." Chen smiled. His grandmother had a way of simplifying complex things. The morning of the session, Chen stood before a mirror in his quarters, practicing his speech one last time. Dr. Kim stood beside him. "You ready?" she asked. "No," Chen admitted. "But Earth never asked if we were ready before throwing challenges at us. We adapted. We'll adapt now." "Very philosophical," Kim teased. "Try not to accidentally make yourself sound like a warrior poet. The galaxy is nervous enough." Chen laughed despite himself. "I'll try to avoid quoting Sun Tzu, or Miyamoto Musashi, or any of our dozens of famous warrior philosophers." Kim paused. "Actually, maybe avoid mentioning that we have famous warrior philosophers at all. That might not help." As they walked to the council chamber, Chen thought about Earth, about the storms and earthquakes and predators, about the humans who faced all of that and chose to build civilizations instead of fortresses, who created art and music and philosophy while their planet tried to kill them. Earth had made humans tough, but it had also made them creative, adaptable, and ultimately hopeful. Because you couldn't survive on a death world without believing that tomorrow could be better than today. The council chamber doors opened. Chen walked in to face 42 species who feared what humanity might become. It was time to show them what humanity had chosen to be, and to explain that the choice had been made long ago by people who looked at a dangerous world and decided to make it home instead of making it heal. Earth's children were strong. But strength, Chen was about to explain, was only the beginning of the story. The border incident began 3 weeks after Ambassador Chen's speech to the council. The speech had gone well, too well, according to some. While most species had accepted humanity's assurances of peaceful intent, a faction within the Krillian Empire remained skeptical. "They lie with pretty words," war leader Krathvor argued before the Krillian Supreme Council. "They say they are peaceful. They say they choose restraint. But these are the words of predators lulling prey into complacency. We must test their true nature." Supreme Commander Vorthak was older and more cautious than Krathvor. Commander Grask's analysis was clear. Direct conflict with humans would be catastrophic. "Grask is afraid," Krathvor spat. "We are Krillian. We do not cower before unproven threats. I propose a small test. A minor border incident. We strike one of their smaller colonies. If they respond with overwhelming force, we know they are the threat we fear. If they do not, we know they are weak despite their words." "And if they respond proportionally?" another council member asked. Krathvor's scales rippled with confidence. "Then we learn their doctrine, their tactics, their true capabilities. Either way, we gain valuable intelligence." The vote was close, but Krathvor's faction won. A small Krillian strike force was authorized to engage a human colony ship in disputed territory. The target was the CSS Endeavor, a mining colony vessel with minimal defenses and only 200 civilian inhabitants. The attack came without warning. 3 Krillian warships dropped out of hyperspace and opened fire. Captain Maria Santos, commander of the Endeavor, barely had time to send a distress signal before the first volley hit their shields. "All civilians to emergency pods," Santos ordered. "Engineering, divert everything to shields. We just need to survive until help arrives." The Endeavor was not a military vessel. Its shields were designed for asteroid deflection, not combat. The Krillian weapons tore through them in minutes. "Shield failure imminent," her tactical officer reported. "Hull breaches on decks 3 and 7. We're venting atmosphere." Santos activated the colony-wide intercom. "This is the captain. Abandon ship. I repeat, abandon ship. All hands to emergency pods." The escape pods launched into the void as the Endeavor took another hit. Half the pods made it clear. The other half were caught in the ship's debris field when the main reactor exploded. Krathvor watched the destruction from his flagship with satisfaction. The human vessel is destroyed. Now we wait to see their response. He didn't have to wait long. The human response fleet arrived in system 40 minutes later, 3 cruisers and a carrier, moving faster than Krillian sensors had predicted possible. Unknown human vessels detected, Krathvor's tactical officer reported. They're not slowing down. They're coming straight at us. Battle stations, Krathvor ordered. This is what we came to learn. Show me what humans are truly capable of. The human fleet split into a delta formation. Their weapons locked on. Every Krillian warrior prepared for a brutal fight. Then the human flagship transmitted. Krillian vessels, this is Admiral Kwame Osi of the United Nations Space Command. Stand down immediately. You have attacked a civilian vessel in violation of galactic law. We are authorized to use force to protect our people. This is your only warning, Krathvor laughed. They offer warning. They show weakness. Attack! The Krillian ships opened fire. The battle lasted 7 minutes. The human ships moved with precision that seemed impossible for vessels their size. Their shields absorbed hits that should have crippled them. Their weapons struck with accuracy that suggested targeting systems far beyond standard galactic technology. One Krillian cruiser lost power. Another took damage to its main engines. The third tried to escape, but human fighters cut off its retreat. And then, as Krathvor prepared for the killing blow, the humans stopped firing. Krillian vessels. Your weapons are disabled, Admiral Osei transmitted. We are locking tractor beams on your ships to prevent further hostile action. Medical teams are standing by to treat your wounded. You will be taken into custody and turned over to Council authorities for trial. Krathvor stared in disbelief at his dead weapon systems. Finish it, he demanded. Kill us with honor. That's not how this works, Osei replied. You attack civilians, but we're not murderers. Your crew will receive medical treatment. Your ships will be towed to neutral space, and you will face justice. Within the hour, human damage control teams were aboard the Krillian vessels. Medics treated wounded warriors. Engineers made emergency repairs to prevent life support failures. Krathvor found himself in the medical bay of the human carrier, his leg being treated by a human doctor named Chen. Not Ambassador Chen, but the coincidence wasn't lost on him. Why did you not finish us? Krathvor asked as the doctor worked. Dr. Chen looked up from sealing the wound. Because you're not a threat anymore. You attacked us. We defended ourselves. The fight is over. We destroyed your colony ship. We killed your people. Yes, Dr. Chen said quietly.
And you'll answer for that.
But answering for your crimes doesn't require your death. Earth taught us to defend ourselves. Our civilization taught us mercy. Krathvor was silent for a long moment. We wanted to test your capabilities, to see if your peaceful words matched your actions. And what did you learn? Dr. Chen asked. That we made a terrible mistake, Krathvor admitted. Your fleet could have destroyed us. Your weapons were clearly superior. Your tactics were flawless, but you stopped. You chose not to kill us when you clearly could have. That's called restraint, Dr. Chen said, finishing the treatment. Earth made us dangerous, but it was human civilization that taught us when not to use that danger. The incident sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Council intelligence agencies analyzed every second of the battle. What they found terrified them even more than a human victory would have. Commander Grask presented his analysis to the Krillian Supreme Council. His scales had lost their usual luster. He looked like he had aged 10 years and 3 days. The humans were holding back, he said flatly. I've reviewed the battle data. They targeted weapon systems with surgical precision. They could have destroyed our ships. Instead, they disabled them. Their weapons fire was carefully calibrated to pierce shields and armor without causing catastrophic damage. That's impossible, someone protested. That level of precision in combat is apparently routine for humans, Grask interrupted. But that's not the worst part. I compared their ship capabilities in this fight to their known specifications. They were operating at approximately 30% combat capacity. The Council fell silent. They weren't fighting us, Grask continued. They were restraining us, like adults stopping children from hurting themselves, and they did it effortlessly. Supreme Commander Vorthak looked ill. What are their actual capabilities? Unknown, Grask said. But based on this engagement, I estimate they could have destroyed our entire border fleet with the vessels they sent. They sent what was necessary to stop the threat and rescue survivors. Nothing more. Why? Someone asked. Why this level of restraint? Grask pulled up the interrogation files of captured Krillian warriors. Human interrogators had been respectful, even friendly. They offered food, medical care, and assured the prisoners they would be treated according to galactic law. One interrogator, a human named Lieutenant Sarah Jackson, had explained it simply. We know what it's like to be conquered. Earth's history is full of empires that crushed others. We remember what that was like. We decided never to be that species. Not because we can't be, because we choose not to be. Vorthak watched the recordings. They've seen darkness in their own history. They know what they're capable of becoming, and they actively choose not to become it, Grask confirmed. Every day, every decision. They could dominate the galaxy. Instead, they offered to protect it. The news of the incident reached Earth within hours. The reaction was not what the galaxy expected. There was no celebration of military victory. No calls for revenge. Instead, humanity mourned the lives lost on the Endeavor. Memorials were held. Families grieved. And then, in typical human fashion, they got to work. The UN Security Council met in emergency session. The Krillians tested us, Secretary General Amara Okoye said. They wanted to see if our words matched our actions. We showed them mercy. Now we need to show them why that mercy matters. What are you proposing? The U.S. President asked. We offer them an alliance, Okoye said. Not as conquerors to conquered. As equals who learned a hard lesson. We show them that strength without wisdom leads to defeats like this, and we help them understand that real power isn't the ability to destroy, it's the choice not to. The proposal was controversial. Many humans wanted justice for the Endeavor's victims, but the majority understood something important. The galaxy was watching. How humanity responded to this attack would define their place in the galactic community for centuries. 2 weeks after the incident, Ambassador Chen stood before the Krillian Supreme Council. It was the first time a human had been invited to their homeworld. We could have destroyed your ships, Chen said simply. We didn't. Not because we're weak, because we understand that today's enemy might be tomorrow's ally. Earth taught us that survival sometimes means fighting, but it also taught us that long-term survival requires cooperation. Vorthak met Chen's gaze. You offer alliance to those who attacked you. We offer understanding to those who were afraid. Chen correct. 6 months after the Krillian incident, the Galactic Council reconvened to vote on humanity's status. The chamber had been rebuilt following a structural failure during a storm system that passed through the sector. Ironically, human engineers had helped with the repairs, working in conditions that would have required protective suits for most species, but were merely unpleasant weather for humans. High Arbiter Zeltoth called the session to order. The gallery was full. Representatives from all member species attended, and for the first time in Council history, the proceedings were being broadcast live across the entire galactic network. We gathered today to address the question that has dominated our discussion for the past 7 months, Zeltoth began. What place does humanity hold in our galactic community? We have seen their capabilities. We have witnessed their restraint. We have learned their history. Now we must decide how to move forward together. The first speaker was Ambassador Talira of the Thyrene Collective. Her crystalline form chimed softly as she addressed the assembly. The Thyrene people were afraid when we learned Earth's true nature, she admitted. We are not warriors. We are not survivors of harsh worlds. We are traders and artists who have lived in peace for millennia. We feared humanity would see us as weak. As prey, she paused, letting her next words carry weight. We were wrong. In the past 6 months, human advisors have helped us develop emergency response systems for our colonies. They taught us survival techniques we never knew we needed. And they did this not as conquerors sharing knowledge with subjects, but as friends teaching friends. The Thyrene formally endorse full council membership for humanity and propose them as primary peacekeepers for the galactic community. The chamber buzzed with discussion. The role of primary peacekeeper was one of the most important positions in the council. It meant humanity would be responsible for responding to conflicts across council space. Commander Grask rose next. His presence commanded attention. The Krillian Empire once questioned human intentions through force. We learned a hard lesson. Humans are capable of destruction we can barely imagine, but they choose not to destroy. They choose to protect. He pulled up data from the past 6 months. Since the incident, human military advisors have been training Krillian forces, but they do not teach us how to be more deadly. They teach us ethical warfare. Rules of engagement. Protection of civilians. We are becoming better warriors because humans showed us that true strength includes knowing when not to fight. Grask's voice softened. The Krillian Empire votes in favor of full membership. Furthermore, we pledge our military forces to serve alongside humanity in peacekeeping operations. We will learn from them how to be strong without being cruel. Speaker after speaker rose to voice their support. The Zephyri praised human creativity in solving problems. The Vorsh celebrated human trade partnerships. The Phyrexians marveled at human adaptability to different environments. Not everyone was convinced. The Scythian representative, Ambassador Quill, expressed concerns shared by several species. We acknowledge human achievements, Quill said carefully, but we must also acknowledge the risk. Every species in galactic history with similar origins became a threat. How can we be certain humans will not follow the same path? Ambassador Chen rose to respond. He had expected this question. You can't be certain, he said honestly. No species can guarantee its future behavior absolutely. But I can tell you what makes humans different from the Drethkar or the Vorchain. We know our own history. We know what we're capable of becoming. He pulled up images of Earth's history. Battles, empires, conflicts that had scarred his homeworld for generations. We've been conquerors before. Chen continued. We've been tyrants. We've been monsters to our own people. We know what that looks like because we've lived it. And we decided collectively as a species that we didn't want to be that anymore. Not because we lacked the strength for it, because we learned that strength without wisdom destroys everything, including itself. He pulled up another image. The UN Charter, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Geneva Conventions. These are the rules we created to restrain ourselves, not rules others imposed on us. Rules we chose because we understood that our greatest enemy wasn't external. It was our own worst impulses. Earth made us survivors, but we made ourselves civilized. And that choice, renewed every day by every human, is what makes us different. Dr. Venskal, the HFY psychologist, rose to add his analysis. I have studied human psychology extensively. They possess what I call reflective aggression. They are capable of violence but constantly evaluate whether that violence is necessary or justified. This is not weakness. This is sophisticated threat assessment combined with ethical reasoning. He pulled up comparative data. Most aggressive species lack this reflective quality. The Drethkar simply conquered because they could. The Vorchain fought because fighting was their nature. Humans are unique in that they possess aggressive capability, but layer it beneath ethical consideration. They ask, should I, before asking, can I? The vote was called. One by one, species cast their votes. When the count finished, the result was overwhelming. 41 species voted in favor of full human membership. Only the Scythians abstained, requesting more time to observe. Zeltoth stood to make the announcement. By the power vested in this council, humanity is hereby granted full membership status with all rights and responsibilities therein. Furthermore, this council accepts the proposal to designate human forces as primary peacekeepers, working in cooperation with Krillian military units and other volunteer forces. The chamber erupted in mixed sounds of approval. Chen felt the weight of the decision settle on his shoulders. This wasn't just an honor. It was a responsibility. Humanity would now be expected to protect species across the galaxy. As if reading his thoughts, Zeltoth added, we also recognize Earth's official designation. While humans may call their world Earth in casual usage, the Council archives will record its true nature. Not as a warning, but as a reminder. The death world whose children chose to be gentle. After the session ended, Chen found himself surrounded by well-wishers and new allies. But one conversation stood out. War leader Krathvor, now released from custody after completing his trial and sentence, approached with Commander Grask. I owe you an apology, Krathvor said stiffly. I thought testing you would reveal weakness or hidden aggression. Instead, it revealed my own failure to understand what strength truly means. Chen extended his hand in the human gesture of peace. Krathvor hesitated, then grasped it firmly. Earth taught us that survival requires adaptation, Chen said. The galaxy is teaching us that thriving requires cooperation. We're all still learning. 3 months later, the first joint human Krillian peacekeeping mission launched. A dispute between mining colonies in the outer reaches threatened to escalate into violence. The peacekeeping force arrived to find both sides armed and angry. Lieutenant Marcus Torres led the human contingent. Commander Grask led the Krillian forces. Together, they approached the situation not with overwhelming force but with patient negotiation, backed by the clear capability to enforce peace if necessary. The dispute was resolved without a single shot fired. Both colonies agreed to binding arbitration. The peacekeepers left behind a monitoring station staffed by volunteers from both human and Krillian forces. "Your people are good at this," Grask observed as they traveled back to their ships. "We've had practice," Torres replied. "Earth gave us lots of practice at solving problems without destroying everything around us. Sometimes the hardest part of being strong is knowing when to be gentle." Back on Earth, the news of humanity's new role was met with mixed feelings. Pride, certainly, but also awareness of the responsibility. At the UN headquarters, Secretary General Okoye addressed the General Assembly. "We are now guardians not just of our own people, but of the galactic peace. This is not a burden we take lightly. Earth made us capable of this role. Now we must prove we are worthy of it." A new training program was established. Humans and aliens learned together. Cultural exchange programs expanded. Children from different worlds studied together, learning that differences in origin didn't have to mean differences in friendship. On a station orbiting a neutral world, a human child named Emma played with a Thyrene child named Sylvan. Emma showed Sylvan how to climb the recreation area's artificial trees. Sylvan showed Emma how to create light patterns by vibrating at different frequencies. Their parents watched nervously at first. Emma's mother worried the climbing was too dangerous for Sylvan. Sylvan's parent worried the light patterns might be too bright for human eyes, but the children figured it out. They adapted, they cooperated, they played. A Krillian security officer watched them and smiled. His own child would be joining the exchange program next month. 6 months ago, he would have thought it dangerous to expose his child to humans. Now he saw it as an opportunity for his child to learn from the galaxy's finest teachers in adaptation and survival. Ambassador Chen stood in the observation deck of Nexus Station, watching ships from dozens of species dock and depart. Human vessels mixed seamlessly with